The fish bar was full of cooking pots. Only to be expected, I guess. I don't know what the last thing cooked here was, but it seemed to have been prepared recently.
Hopefully not too recent, because the state of this place? Oh my god. Alright, so I think the murder already took place here. So there's one murder left to complete their octagram of murders. And that would be... Where is the other location? The Wizard's Pleasance.
The Wizard's Pleasance was a small, newt-haunted meadow in a horseshoe bend in the Ankh, inside the grounds of the Unseen University, separated from it but connected to the university gardens by the Bridge of Sighs. On summer evenings, if the wind is blowing towards the river, it is a nice area for a stroll.
Don't mind me, I'm also eating snacks and playing games. It's the weekend.
The Pleasance was full of dense bushes.
You know, this really does look like a decent garden. You know, when you don't get the stench of the Ankh. Luton, come on, don't do this. It's just a wall, you can reach it. There you go. No, Luton, come on, man. Just make it to the wall. Thank you.
The Pleasance was cut off from the city by a tall exterior wall. I couldn't easily scale the wall.
Ooh, what if you could scale it in your wolf form? You probably won't because you don't want to, but let's see. So I think it's only the stench of the Ankh. That means that there hasn't been a murder yet.
On a good day, the Pleasance was apparent. Presumably today was not a good day.
No, it does not seem to be a good day. It seems to be a very stinky day.
On a good
So no murder yet.
I could hide in the bushes, but for how long? I'd need to know that the next murder was definitely going to be here before I did that.
Well, it will be. It's the only place left. You didn't want to pick up the bone, so I can't really justify that it's human because you don't want to verify it. So the Wizard's Pleasance is definitely going to be the next location. Would the police be interested in this information?
Just thought we could have a little chat. Oh, all right then.
Alright then.
Make it quick.
I'll make it very quick. Because you probably won't want to talk about anything.
I found out about his name. How did you find? I was told by the Tooth Fairy. Really? Clever of you to track her down. Anybody ever told you you're credulous, Snup? All right, I know. Can't help you with that, Squire. Can't help you with that, Squire.
Well, he can't help me with anything, Squire.
I guess I'll see you. I'll try. Let's face it.
Actually, can I show him the list that I have? He probably won't want to show it because he doesn't trust Nobby.
I'd keep the list of names to myself until I knew more about it. The pompous windbag on the stage was Previtier. He went beyond being a ham. He had 2 eggs, fried mushrooms, and a gigantic rasher of bacon.
That's pretty hammy. Okay. Can I turn into a werewolf here? Although he's kind of looking at me.
I quickly transformed into a
I can.
wolf and had a sniff around. There was an eerie, dark magenta scent in the theater. But what caught my attention was the magenta scent that seemed to disappear into the stage. My murderer had been here.
Your murderer has been here, eh?
Where the scent had disappeared, there were some marks. I couldn't quite make them out, but they seemed to be a definite shape of some kind.
Would it be an octogram shape of some kind?
I ran my finger around the marks casually. There was something about them that made you want to trace things on them, like a smiley face or a tic-tac-toe board.
So let's do that.
Well, something like that. Maybe something a little more sinister.
Maybe. So, can I refer the picture that I have on my notebook to the marks? Because it sounds an awful lot like the octagram. Pick this up.
I traced an octagram on the marks, but nothing happened.
Oh, well, that's disappointing.
I had a feeling it was the right idea, but the wrong shape.
Ah, the other shape then. The other octo shape.
I traced the sign of the eel across the marks, exactly as I learned how to do in the Libraris Apocrypha. There was a faint click, and the next thing I knew, there was a passageway under the stage.
And that dude doesn't care at all what we're doing. Well, what do you know?
The passageway led into a dark and ominous vault. The whole sepulchral temple seemed to be formed from curves and angles that would give geometry teachers nightmares.
It's a little tacky, isn't it? Very green. What is that slime? And how did they build this?
The centerpiece to this disturbing chamber was a stone altar engraved with a map of the Circle C. It looked centuries old, the kind of altar that could tell a few tales if it could talk.
A few tales of murder, I guess.
I was glad it couldn't. The map of the Circle C seemed to be the only interesting feature of the altar.
Okay.
The centerpiece to this disturbing chamber was a stone altar engraved with a map of the Circle C. It looked
But does that line look interrupted? Huh. Well, this also looks familiar to us as the octagram of murders.
I knew that Nylon Athatep had been summoned by an octagram of murders around the Circle C, but I didn't know where those murders had taken place.
I don't really know what to do with this altar. Do I have anything in my inventory? Bandages, flyer... Oh, I should turn into a werewolf. My killer has definitely been here.
It seemed like a good plan at the time. I'd transform into a wolf and see what my senses told me. But when the dark magenta scent engulfed me, I was struck with a wave of sheer terror, and I ran howling from the temple.
So it's overwhelming.
It was embarrassing having to sneak back down again naked to collect my clothes, and I decided not to try that again in a hurry.
So I did come back. Okay, Luton. Okay. Not much to do here, except this whole area is engulfed in the scent of my killer.
I'd picked up the theater flyer from... It told me about... I couldn't see the centerpiece. It
must be something from our inventory or notebook. Because he said that he didn't know the locations, but we do know all sorts of locations. Let's try everything that we have with everything.
I already knew where each of the murders had taken place in the city. I didn't need a map of the Circle C for that. The centerpiece, it looked...
So what did he say again when he saw that symbol?
I knew that Nylon Athatep had been summoned by an octagram of murders around the Circle C, but I didn't know where those murders had taken place.
So do we need to know that?
The centerpiece,
What if I take this one?
The sign of the eel didn't appear anywhere on the altar.
It must be a connection to the fire. Because all the plays had connections to the murder.
Useful though they are.
An exit is just an exit. How about you drop the topic first, Luton? And we get out of here for now. We need to confirm something, and the only place that I can think of is the uber valuable library of the von Uberwalds.
Who would Sarah like to see this time?
The library. I don't care about anyone else. Actually, Death should still be there, but we talked to him about everything.
I'd like to use the library again.
Okay. If I remember correctly, we did look up the symbols, but just to make sure...
I looked up the octagram of murders in the library, but I could only find the entry I'd already seen in Necrotelecomnicon discussed for students. I checked that I had remembered how to draw. I looked up Hwell in the library and found his complete works. In there was a discussion of the 8 great tragedies, Hwell's bloodiest works. From the About the Author paragraph, I learnt that Hwell was a dwarf who was banished from his tribe not only because of his claustrophobia, but because of his tendency to daydream. Both undesirable, to say the least, if you work in a mine. 102, and in the prime of his life for a dwarf, Hwell now worked for Vittler's Plays at the Disc Theatre as one of the premier playwrights of the day. The 8 great tragedies were given in great detail. 8 plays, each with a collection of murders, usually with one more particularly gruesome or grotesque than the others, presumably for use in publicity trailers. The publicity trailers helped draw people into the theater by being towed around town to display posters. There was something suspiciously familiar about some of those murders.
They happened, all of them in the city. All right, what did we note down? And poor Hewell, a dwarf with claustrophobia and he was kicked out? Man, that's rough. 8 great tragedies.
I'd learnt about the 8 great tragedies, a series of plays written by the dwarfish playwright Hwell, each featuring at least one outlandish murder. Something about the 8 great tragedies reminded me of recent events in Ankh-Morpork. Tell me about the 8 great tragedies, and don't make me regret asking you about this.
The 8 great tragedies are considered to be among the finest of Hwell's plays, each one a poignant drama with an insight into the mortal condition.
That's all you have to say?
I could tell you much more.
Such as?
I could tell of the soul-searching anguish of Village in The Happy Prince of Copperhaven, as he struggles to decide whether to avenge the death of his father, whilst in the meantime inadvertently stabbing and poisoning the entire cast in oh so many humorous misunderstandings.
So humorous.
No, that's fine.
Oh, in the dead vast middle of the night, he cries. Oh, that my lover's father had not hidden behind that tapestry whilst I was practicing with my poignard.
That's enough.
And the famous soliloquy, to be or not to be. Oh, what's the point? Nobody's listening. Or perhaps I could tell of the tempestuous love of Antilogy for Cleopatra, queen of the jelly baby.
Jelly baby.
Stop it!
Perhaps the unspeakable acts of Titus Diplodocus. If one good deed in all my life I did, I do repent it from my very soul. That's all, folks.
Oh my god.
All right!
Thank you for that.
Enough!
Enough.
Our revels now are ended.
Stop! I knew I shouldn't have asked.
But it was fun, nonetheless.
Even a secret exit is just an exit when all is said and done.
Fair enough, but I just want to go in the secret exit, Luton. Just drop it. Because I think, wow, I get the long walk sequence every time. What if I use this with the altar?
Using the map, I worked out where each of the 8 great tragedies had taken place. They made an octagram around the edge, just like the counterweight killings did in Ankh-Morpork. I could match each of the tragedies to one of the murders, and the positions corresponded precisely. I knew that someone was going to get dragged to death from the Wizard's Pleasance, and that some unlucky fellow was going to get eaten in Dagon Street.
Someone already did get eaten in Dagon Street.
I had a feeling I knew what had bothered me about the bone in the fish bar now.
Yes.
It was a human femur. That meant there was only one murder to go, and that it would take place at the Wizard's Pleasance.
So let's go, man. To the Pleasance.
Al-Khali was still following me.
Of course he was. And now there's a doggo. Howdy, doggo.
I wasn't an expert on dogs, but I thought that this black thoroughbred dog was a Klachian hound, also known as the Kelef Klachani. Small, proud, and ruthless, the Kelef Klachani were prized by dog breeders throughout the Circle C. What this one was doing out on the streets was anyone's guess.
You know, we've had this piece of dialogue before. This dog was at the Archaeologists Guild ages ago.
I thought about petting the dog, but there was something about the way he looked that made me think twice, maybe even 3 times about it.
But you can try talking to him. We've seen this doggo before.
I didn't want to transform in such an exposed area.
Very well. Let's hide in the bushes, I guess, in front of the doggo. Where are you going, Luton?
I didn't know how long I'd have to wait until something happened, but it turned out to be less than I thought. I'd suspected I'd been being followed, and I wasn't surprised to find that Al-Khali was skulking around behind me. Gods alone knows how he got into the university, but if I could do it, I guess anyone could. It was over in seconds. I was about to follow the killer's trail when I saw a familiar face.
Why did you carry on with the case, Luton?
Too many people told me to stop.
I was hoping it wouldn't come to this. I like you, Luton. It didn't have to be this way.
So you're behind this, are you?
I'm just a servant. My master, Anu, is behind this.
That beast is Mooncalf's god?
Mooncalf didn't start this cult. I did. When the last human worshippers of Anu had passed on, leaving only an empty temple in their wake, the cult lived on among the lycanthropes. My late husband got me involved, and I came back to Ankh-Morpork to arrange everything.
Came back?
I thought you'd realize, Luton. I'm THERMA.
It figures. You killed Malachite, didn't you?
I didn't kill any of them. My master did that. We just arranged everything for him. He's stronger when we gather together and pray.
You were in the Temple of Small Gods each time there was a murder.
It was a perfect alibi.
Why was Malachite looking for you?
I'm his sister.
His sister? Hands up who can spot the big problem here.
I was adopted by Mr. and Mrs. Karst. They named me THERMA. And Malachite and I grew up together.
What happened?
It's a tough life when you're a poor troll, and tougher still when you weren't born a troll. I used to sit at the table eating bread, while the rest of the family was chewing cold sandwiches. That kind of thing leaves its mark on a girl.
My heart bleeds for you.
Malachite and I broke into the von Uberwald mansion and made off with some of the Count's valuables, including that pendant you've been carrying around.
And that jeweled box in the carriage that presumably held the asp that poisoned Reagan.
That's right.
How did you and Malachite get separated?
He got caught, but he didn't tell the watch about me. I thought I'd seen the last of him. I sold most of what I got, and I was living off it comfortably. But I'd seen that painting in the hallway, and it got me thinking.
The painting that looks like you?
Exactly. I reinvented myself as a debutante, and I seduced Ulrich and married into high society. I went back to Uberwald with him, changed my name to Carlotta, and my life as a troll was forgotten. THERMA was dead. Long live Carlotta von Uberwald.
Did you know Ulrich was a werewolf?
Not until the honeymoon. That was a surprise, I can tell you. Not entirely an unpleasant one, I have to say.
How did you get involved in this cult business?
Before he died, Ulrich inducted me into the worship of Anu, and it became my mission to engineer his return to power. I recruited followers and we prayed to him, gradually awakening his consciousness. He'd been stuck in the form of a small dog on the streets of Al-Khali for decades, not even remembering who he was. As our numbers grew, Anu's power grew, and eventually he was able to slip aboard a ship and steal his way here to Ankh-Morpork.
The Milka.
That's right. The Milka also stopped off at Sort, where it picked up Mundi. He was supposed to be bringing us the Sortese Fallschirm, having stolen it from a dig at Sorta. The archaeologists didn't even know it was there. Unfortunately, what we hadn't counted on was that Mundi was a man with few scruples and even less brains to go with it. Either he approached Horst, or Horst approached him. One way or another, he arranged to sell the sword to that devious troll.
Only he didn't have the sword, did he? He'd concealed it in one of the crates in the cargo hold.
We didn't know that. We just knew that Mundi had gone to ground. That's why I hired you to find him.
And when I did, your cult killed him. Only you'd expected the sword to be with him. And by the time he was dead, it was too late to ask him where he'd put it.
We couldn't believe our luck when you found the sword for us after Mundi's death. I'm sorry that my master had to stab you to get it.
Did you know I was going to get killed? Was that why you made me into a werewolf?
I suspected that things would get a little rough for you, and I believed you were too valuable an asset to waste.
I'm flattered. And the counterweight killings were your cult attempting to summon Nyarlathotep by mimicking the way he was summoned before. I don't get it.
With the Falchion, my master can defeat the laddering horror again, and he will grow in power, ascending to the ranks of the most powerful gods, where he belongs.
That's all very well, but a lot of people died for that dream. You can't just go around killing people whenever the notion strikes you. It's not polite.
What are the lives of a few people against the prize?
Reagan knew, didn't he? Or at least suspected.
I don't know what he actually knew, but he suspected a lot. He'd been blackmailing me for weeks.
The envelope in his locker. He said he had evidence, didn't he?
I didn't know it was empty. He said he had proof, and he knew enough that I couldn't take any chances. He had to go.
Why are you telling me all this?
It's customary for the villain to explain his evil schemes when the hero is captured.
Oh, I'm captured now.
I'm no hero, and you're no villain either. We're just people.
You know it's not too late, Luton. Join us.
Join your cult. What happens if I refuse?
There's no point in refusing. It's already too late to stop the summoning of Nyarlathotep. Al-Khali was the 8th murder. Even now the other cultists are gathering at the focal point for the invocation.
That would be the temple under the Disc Theater, I take it.
You're good. I'll give you that. Let's go, or we'll miss the pre-summoning.
Oh boy?
What if I try to stop you?
Like I said, it's already too late for that. Join us, Luton. You know it's the only choice.
I could kill you and make a run for it.
You wouldn't hurt me, would you, Luton? After all we've been through.
You arranged the murder of your own brother, and you'd have me killed too if I got in the way.
So what? In this world, you get one chance at happiness.
You may be right. All right. I'll go along with this for now. But I'm not making any promises for the future.
That's good enough for me.
Carlotta told me she would have to bind me in case I got any foolish ideas, and then she escorted me into the depths of the temple. It looked like the whole crowd was there. As well as Carlotta, I recognized Mooncalf and Warb, the wizard from Saturnalia. 8 of them in all. 1 for each person on the list. But my attention was drawn to the hulking mass of Anu Anu, and the golden sword that he was wielding like it was a toothpick.
It begins.
Take your places, people. Everyone remember your lines.
Nyarlathotep, who summoned thee? In accordance with the ancient pacts, we have made 8 sacrifices in the manner prescribed. Come to us.
I was filled with an overwhelming sensation of dread. I guess summoning rituals have that effect on me.
It is here! Now I command you, by the power of the Fashion, to bend to my will.
I thought it was Falcon.
Bend to my will, I command thee. I hold the Fashion.
Fashion.
You will obey me.
I got the impression that that wasn't supposed to happen. The next thing I knew, the temple was coming apart at the seams, and rocks were falling everywhere. I don't know what was wrong, but it seemed as if Anu Anu couldn't control the unspeakable force of cosmic horror that he had unleashed, and now it was loose in the city. As if my day wasn't bad enough already.
Oh, great. Now cosmic horror infests the city.
After the rubble had settled, I pulled myself out from under it and had a look around.
Bad day at the office, guys.
The temple seemed different somehow, and not just because the roof had caved in. Anu was lying in a crumpled heap on the other side of the chamber, and Carlotta was tending to his wounds. The rest of the cult had made their getaway, everyone but Warb, whose luck had taken a permanent turn for the worse.
Oh, permadeath.